Merck in Sweden. Can you talk about the effect fear has on the body mind? It seems to cause us to constrict and act more egotistically, making you easier to control and manipulate when we're in survival instead of expressive mode. That's absolutely correct. And that's why politics has become about nothing but fear. Um, they just find that's a trigger that gets people. That's why over the last 20 years, you've seen at this point, all political ads are nothing but how horrible and the other guy is and how you should be afraid of them. There's no talk of policies, even in, you hear them talk, if you watch any debates, which I just can't even stomach anymore. Um, you don't hear anybody talking about policy and what could be done and that sort of thing. It's always about all the horrible things and the bad people and using it all the time. Fear of immigrants, fear of terrorists, fear of Muslims, fear of black people or colored people. It's yes, because it is a powerful trigger in us. It is one of the most fundamental um, uh, elements of the human system, and it's necessary for survival. And it worked very well, right? The thing is that that mechanism uh, in in humans, but also in all animals, is always in balance, right? So if there isn't a threat, there is no fear, right? That's when you seek for opportunity and you find a mate, you're looking for food, all the stuff that animals do. But when fear is sensed, everything goes into place, right? And of course, if you don't survive, the rest is all a moot point. So it becomes the number one thing, which marketers and advertisers. All right, yes, the fear, yes, makes you controllable, right? And it's a natural thing in us. Now the difference is in humans is that we can be afraid. We can be afraid of things that don't actually exist. We can be afraid of the past. We can be afraid of the future, because we have evolved this capacity for imagination, for planning, for projecting, for anticipating. But because we have not really come into balance with the animal part of it, we tend to be anticipating what could go wrong, and so we live in a state of anxiety and stress for the most part. This is how we live. So we have to understand that it's a natural process that we can't get rid of. Now, as you mentioned, in the expressive mode, it, we can get to the point where we are always in that state of anticipating something that could go wrong. Now, remember, with animals, they're not. They don't anticipate something could go wrong, right? Or plan for the next thing that might go wrong. They can't. They don't do that. If there is no imminent danger, they are completely relaxed doing their thing, right? And they do it well because the danger isn't all the time, right? They're always on alert when they're out, foraging for food. As I mentioned, when I lived in New Mexico, there's beautiful mule deers used to come over. I'd sit on the deck and just not move because the tiniest little sound would set them off. They had huge ears, right? And all the time they're feeding and just grooming each other and drinking water. Their ears are doing this. So it's under the surface. They're not stressed. They're not, what could go wrong? What could go wrong? Are they there? Are they not? They're just doing their thing. And this very unconscious, very natural thing is going on that's scanning the horizon for danger. Same thing is in us. Right? Only we get conditioned into a state of thinking that there's always danger there. And it's unconscious, it's very low level, it's in the body. This energetic assumption that there's always danger. And so we're in a constant sense of defense, right? Of self-protection, of survival, of the survival mode. Sometimes it's very subtle. Sometimes it becomes very, very loud and takes a lot of suppression to keep it down and function in the world. But the feeling of it is what we call stress and anxiety and worry and doubt, and all of those kinds of things are there. And so knowing this, there are people who willingly trigger that, right? To get you to do what they want them to do. We just have to be aware that that's it. There's nothing you're going to be able to do about those people. So don't even try. You're not going to be able to convince them to become benevolent and altruistic. It's not going to happen. Um, because they're stuck in it. That's how they've learned to deal with exactly the same thing. So what do? You have to transcend it. You have to transcend by coming to see that that 99% of what you're afraid of doesn't exist except as a thought in the mind. And this little hook that says, well, it might. I better be ready. And if you're willing to inquire into that, you can transcend it so that you can experience that feeling of not being in defensive mode. And what happens is all that energy that's checking things out suddenly becomes like the mule deers walking around just grooming each other, taking care of stuff. But for human beings, it isn't just that. It isn't just making other little mule deers and grooming and the like. For human beings, that same evolved consciousness has access to levels of creativity and making things and understanding things, right, that can't happen as long as it's in defense. The defense will be coloring it. Everything you're making is going to be to improve the defense. All the creativity is going to go towards that, and you'll even find that our most beautiful aspirations getting shut down because they're not serving that purpose. And so the answer is always becoming clear. Becoming clear. Is this fear that I'm right now, that I'm feeling, real? Is this an echo from the past? Is this an anticipation? Is this me trying to prepare for something I can't really prepare for? And you can see how that would put you into a state where even when you are safe, you never feel safe. And this is the state most people are in, right? And it can pop up all the time because we live. This is the state of mind of the world, right? How can we avoid all the bad things happening? As if we can control. You don't even know what your next thought's going to be, let alone how can I control what the future is going to be? And so it comes to a place where we forego our need to control the future. We forego our need to control. We forego our need to always be prepared, and really realize deep in your heart that I have the inner resource, just like the mule deers. They have their talents, their gifts. So if danger does happen, they avoid it. And if they can't avoid it, if the danger is beyond the reach of what their talents can avoid, they surrender to the inevitable, which, as Anthony de Mello pointed out, was the nature of enlightenment. Enlightenment is total surrender to the inevitable. So if I rely on that which is already built into me, and cultivating it, through meditation, spiritual growth, and that sort of thing. But when a situation arises, I don't have to prepare for it. Right? Something inside of me rises to meet that occasion. And if it can't, well, then I simply let go of life. I don't hold on to this particular form, right? Of course, that's the strong impulse. The impulse within the body mind complex is to hold this form together. It doesn't want to let it go. But even that will surrender. As you see that, if you've seen documentaries or in actual real life things getting caught by a predator, prey being caught by a predator. You see them struggling, and then there's a moment at which they accept the inevitable. You can see it. They simply go, they surrender into it, and everything just kind of goes quiet in them. And this is even before their damage has been done and they're actually dead. And this is the disposition to cultivate for life. That I will be prepared for everything that happens, and when I'm not, it'll be over. And then what? On to what I was talking about earlier, right? Well, what's next, right? Or how do I make the most of this moment? How do I make this moment really precious. The only thing that matters, because that's all I got. So maybe that helps you, um, Merck, and also dealing with the people who are trying to press those buttons. The only way you can deal with them is remove the buttons. If there's not a button there, they can't push it. The best salesman in the world can't sell you if you don't buy. And it's not up to us to try to change them. It's up to us to recognize that, oh, they triggered me. They triggered my fear. So I'm going to look at my fear now. I'm going to look at that. What is it that I'm holding on to that I think they're going to take away? Or what blessing are they claiming to give me that I think I need, that makes me dependent? And this is true freedom.